Anne, I'd like to ask you a little bit about Camfed's unique approach, which I understand you call to communities working through national and local systems with parents, teachers, government officials, and traditional authorities, which I think is really critical in many of these communities. I would like to understand how you've worked with girls through development and education and beyond that. And if you could give us some idea, and as I said, if you would also explain the virtuous cycle, I would appreciate that.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Ambassador. Well, we work in rural areas, and that's where poverty is deepest. And really families are not in a position to make choices, in fact. They make decisions based on the socio and economic realities. Their choices are forced. And so we understand and work and respect that decision-making. So the process is one of partnership with parents, inclusion. So our partnership with parents means that they don't have the means, but they certainly have an abundance of love. And our data shows that that support they get at home, that encouragement, we are seeing between 88% and 93% attendance across 5 countries. The number of schools, teacher mentors, a network, because girls are coming to school with problems. They suffer bereavement, for example. So we have a network of trained teacher mentors across 5,000 government schools, and that is having a significant impact on progression, which is 90% across all programs.
Wow.
Now, you mentioned traditional leaders. They are some of our most powerful advocates. One of the traditional leaders said some years ago, Chief Mutekeza in Zimbabwe, he said, I have understood in speaking with girls that they are refugees in their own motherland. And he is an advocate, and there is a peer network of traditional leaders working with us, particularly on child protection and child marriage. And of course, government. Really, our partnership with government is the foundation stone. We work in government schools, and our partnership there is at district level and national level. Our directors in Africa, all recruited from Africa as policy, work very closely with ministries of education. They share data, strategies, they're at the policy table. So it's really a very inclusive program for the education of girls. And we are seeing significant improvements in academic results of those poorest children. But when they leave secondary education, what next? You know, they are confronted sometimes by a lack of employment, and often they will be in a position where they are under pressure to marry. And also they may go to town in search of work, where they are very, very vulnerable. So at that point, we support beyond secondary education, depending on grades and aspirations, into university, into technical training colleges, and with business training and loans and grants. And that's where you really see the investment in education start to pay highly significant dividends. And therefore the family, and as well as, of course, themselves. But how do you make that dividend grow? How do you make that dividend grow for the district, for the nation? So what we've done is created an alumni. So that is the completion of the virtuous cycle. This is the leadership emerging of young women. CAMA members, there are 24,435 graduates in that network across Ghana, Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Extraordinary young women. And one of the indicators of this virtuous cycle is that every one of those members is supporting between 2 and 3 children into school outside her own family. She's also supporting within her family. So this is, this is really the power. And I think what CAMA has done, they say we're united by a background of rural poverty and a commitment to change. And they are proud of their roots. So often poverty carries with it the marks of embarrassment and shame. But they've transformed that into pride and empathy. And I think that is at the heart of their power. That is at the heart of their activism.
Yeah, it's impressive. So we have an incredibly powerful group of people here, all the first spouses. And I'm just curious about how organizations, including governments, spouses, engage in this vital piece of the women's empowerment process.
Yes, indeed. It is an extraordinarily powerful, and I'm deeply honored to be here. And The partnership is wide and broad, the partnership with the private sector as well as government. One of our partners is the MasterCard Foundation, as well in Ghana, and where we are working on a long-term program of support, secondary and tertiary level education. And the young women and girls in that program have prepared a chronicle of their experiences for the First Ladies that they want to share. And that just give you an indication. One of them, Bertha. Now, Bertha, in junior high school, she was living with her family in one room. And it was so noisy that she didn't have time, an opportunity to study. So what she decided to do was to go to bed at 7 p.m. every evening, to get up at 2 a.m. and to study when everyone else was asleep, and then go to school. Now, Bertha wants to be a pediatrician. And what she says is, I want to be a pediatrician because I see my role as being with children. I love children and I see their vulnerability. And you know, that's a theme that we hear time and time again. The girls and young women whom we support, who haven't had a background in education. And you know, we're sharing our personal experiences. My grandmother left school at 12. There was no one more committed to education than she was. Read a book was her constant mantra to me. And that commitment to education grows exponentially when you are suddenly have that opportunity. Suddenly that latent power becomes live because of your education. So they all say, we want to be doctors because we want to change our communities. We want to be midwives because we see women suffering. We want to be journalists because we want to tell the world about our communities. It's about them, but it's about what they can do in the world.
Excellent.
So First Ladies, you know, they are so ready to work with you. And as you've mentioned, they have tremendous ideas to share. And the platforms that you have to really bring their voices forward are just extraordinary. And I would say I would urge you to raise your voices and use those platforms, those extraordinary platforms effectively.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, Shelley, I'm struck. I have a couple of questions for you, but I was just struck by all of these networks of people that